We've all been there. That heavy sinking moment when you realize that your kindness is being treated like an invitation to be a floor mat. Maybe it's a friendship where you're the only one reaching out, and suddenly their silence feels less like being busy and more like some kind of intentional disregard. Or maybe it's at work where your flexibility has slowly morphed into unpaid overtime, and your yes is no longer a choice, but it's an expectation. There's a specific kind of exhaustion that comes with being ignored, manipulated, or taken for granted. It's a heat that rises in your chest, and in that heat, there's a primal impulse to strike back, to finally say something so loud, so sharp, and so final that they can never ignore you again. We often think the only way to stop the bleeding is to become the person who caused it. We think we need to build a fortress of aggression just to survive. But today, I want to look at why that impulse, as understandable as it is, might actually be keeping you exactly where you don't want to be. I was scrolling through some comments on a recent video, and one specifically kind of stopped me in my tracks. It said something like, the only way to protect yourself is to get aggressive. You have to demand what you require from other people. If they don't respect the threat, they don't deserve your presence. Now, I want to be very clear. I hear you. I understand why someone would write that. When you've been pushed to your limit, when you felt the sting of being used, demanding respect feels like justice. Removing people feels like survival. When we're in pain, our instinct is to move toward defense or offense. We want walls. And if those walls aren't thick enough, we want weapons. It's deeply human to want to protect your time, your energy, and your dignity. There's nothing wrong with the desire to be safe. But there's a dangerous trap hidden in how we choose to implement that protection. Here's the problem with using aggression as a boundary. Aggression feels powerful in the moment. When you raise your voice, when you issue an ultimatum, or when you lash out to show them how it is, you get that temporary rush of dopamine. You feel like you're finally laying down the law. You feel like you're back in charge. But take a closer look at where your energy is actually going. What are you actually in charge of? When you use aggression, your attention is still entirely locked onto them. You're reacting to them. You're focused on their actions, waiting for their reaction to your outburst. In an attempt to push someone away or force them into line, you haven't actually escaped the cycle. You've just created a much tighter bond with them. Now you're tethered by conflict. True strength isn't found in how much power you can exert over another person. Because let's be honest, we can't control other people. We can't demand respect from someone who doesn't value it. All that aggression does is ensure that drama remains centered around their behavior and your reaction to it. An aggressive boundary is just a threat. And a threat, that's simply an invitation for more conflict. It keeps you trapped in a loop of reactivity, always waiting for the other person to finally get it. And quite often they don't. So if the solution isn't aggression, what is it? What we have to do is separate protection from aggression. We have to reframe what a boundary actually is. A common mistake about boundaries is thinking that they're for other people. You aren't allowed to speak to me like that. You have to call me back immediately when I call you. Those aren't boundaries. Those are ultimatums. They're attempts at external control, and they almost always fail because you can't govern another person's will. Real boundaries aren't about controlling others. They're about governing yourself. A real boundary sounds like this. If you continue to speak to me in that tone, I'm going to hang up the phone. Or I can't participate in conversations that involve bad-mouthing people. If it goes in that direction, I'm going to have to leave. Do you see the difference? You aren't telling them how to act. You're stating how you're going to respond in response to their actions. You're defining the perimeter of your own peace. This leads to a much more profound and a lot more difficult principle. The first move in setting a boundary isn't demanding that other people give you what you need. The first move is looking inside of yourself to see if you're meeting those needs for yourself. It sounds counterintuitive, I know, but think about it. If we're constantly waiting for someone else to change so that we can finally feel secure, we've handed them the keys to our emotional well-being. We've made our peace conditional on their behavior. True boundary setting starts with an internal audit. What do I need? How can I provide structure for myself? Where am I overextending myself because I'm afraid of conflict? When you start looking inward to fulfill your own requirements for respect and stability, the external boundaries become much easier to implement. It's easy to be cruel. It's easy to burn bridges and walk away in a rage. That requires very little introspection. It only requires impulse. But there's something much better and much more difficult than being reactive. It involves the work of becoming clear. Clarity allows you to see exactly where you end and another person begins. It allows you to stand your ground without needing to move theirs. It allows you to say, I value this relationship, but I value my peace more. And to mean it. Not as a threat, but as a simple, unshakable fact. As you navigate your own struggles with being seen or heard, remember this. Protecting your peace doesn't require cruelty, and it doesn't require controlling others. It requires self-regulation. It requires looking within. It requires clarity. Thanks for taking some time out of your day to watch. If this resonated, I'd appreciate it if you click the like and subscribe buttons. It helps a lot. Also, feel free to check out quietfrontier.com. There's more in-depth content there about mind, meaning, and purpose. Thanks again. Take good care.
There's not much difference day to day. No time to stop and pray to my God. Won't you grant me some relief? Obligated.